like to call this meeting of the Evesham Township Board of Education to order. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate public notice has been given by the Secretary of the Evesham Township Board of Education in the following manner: posting written notice on the official bulletin board at the Board of Education office, emailing written notice to the Burlington County Times and the Courier Post, filing written notice with the municipal clerk of Evesham Township. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Capello?
Here.
Mrs. Everhart? Mr. Fizzicaro?
Here.
Ms. Fleming?
Here.
Mr. Caffin?
Here.
Mrs. Knoll?
Here.
Mr. Lancellotta?
Here.
Mr. Megan?
Here.
Mrs. Ryan?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this point, I need a motion to go into executive session, whereas an NJSA 10-4-12 allows for a public body to go into closed session during a public meeting, and whereas the Board of Education, the Board of Education of Evesham Township has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public, and whereas the regular meeting of the Board of Education reconvened following the end of the closed session at approximately 7 p.m. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education will go into closed session for the following reasons as outlined in NJSA 10-4-12. That's items 2.2 through 2.4. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Fleming. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Ryan. Any questions or comments? Let's go to a roll call, please.
Mrs. Capello?
Yes.
Mrs. Everhart? Mr. Fizzicaro?
Yes.
Ms. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Caffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Lancellotta?
Yes.
Mr. Megan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. At approximately 7 p.m., we will be back from executive session. I'd like to reconvene this meeting of the Evesham Township Board of Education. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Now I'll be reading our mission statement. The mission of the Evesham Township School District is to promote excellence in an environment that engages students in meaningful learning experiences. In partnership with students, dedicated staff, families, and community, the district provides a strong educational foundation that will empower our students to achieve their unique potential, embrace self-directed lifelong learning, develop the skills necessary for appropriate risk-taking and responsible decision-making, respect themselves and others, problem solve individually and collaboratively, and become contributing members of a diverse global society. At this point in time, we'll be moving into presentations for the annual school self-assessment. Dr. Smith, I give the floor to you, or do I give it to Ms. Pagulik? Oh, Ms. Pagulik. The floor is yours.
Kind of cycle that they do every year. So at the end of the school year, they met for their final meeting of their school safety team / climate / wellness / green. We do a lot of different things with that committee. So they met either at the end of May or early June, and they looked at the rubric. So even though state hadn't released the actual rubric yet, we looked at while everything was kind of fresh in our minds and we were ending the year, we graded ourselves on what the rubric has been in the past, and there were no changes to that the last 3 years. So that held true. So basically they had their meetings in May and June, and then we were waiting because last year the information came available in August. The year before it became available in June. The year before it became available in May. So we were ready to input once those they opened up the system where we would enter our grades. That actually didn't happen until September 29th this year. So September 29th, they released the system, and probably that night, the principals got a super fun, exciting email from me asking them to pull out their rubric from May and June and enter those scores into the system. So our principals did that in the beginning part of October. And that brings us to tonight, where I get to give just a summary presentation of all the different scores and really what those mean in terms of the rubric that the state has us use, and any implications or things that we're looking at in terms of as school safety teams or climate, and ways that we can continue to enhance and improve our programs, our approaches, our investigations, things like that, as it relates to anti-bullying. Technically, because the system opened so late, the state's not requiring districts to have that information submitted in the system and certified by January 31st. But again, we do things when they come out and we do them quickly. So we will actually be entering that after we have our presentation tonight, and then certainly the board needs to approve that, and then I'll go in and certify the data, and that will be submitted. Once the scores are submitted from the self-assessment, the state then has their time or their time period where they will actually go in and they'll look at the grades and they'll certify those and assign where you see to be determined, they assign us a score or a grade based on what we self-assess. Once we get that release, and actually the release of the previous year's grades didn't come till June of last year, but once we get that, we have 10 days to actually release those grades. And as soon as we do that, we release them and put them on the school websites, the district websites. And then we have at the next board meeting, we talk about those. And again, historically, those scores, they have certified what the self-assessment has proven true, and they haven't changed our scores from year to year. So that was the longest part, I swear. All right, so core elements, these are the different things that we are rating ourselves on and what the team is rating themselves on. So school safety team has an administrator, a counselor who's the anti-bullying specialist, other teachers represented staff that work together, a parent representative, and they're looking at these different core elements. So first element is related to programs, approaches, and other initiatives that are going on at the school level, or it could be something the district level that the school's then carrying forward. The second is related to trainings on HIB policy and making sure that your policy is up to date. The third area is your staff instruction and training programs. So are you training your staff? Are you training volunteers? Things like that. The fourth area is curriculum instruction that's connected to HIB and the prevention of bullying. The fifth area is that do you have the proper people assigned in terms of HIB personnel. So that would be, I'm the district anti-bullying coordinator, all the counselors are the anti-bullying specialist, principal, safety team, and so on. 6 is looking at and rating the incident reporting procedures that you have in place. 7 is the investigation procedures. And then that last one is related to reporting. And again, that's once those grades come up, are you actually releasing those and reporting those out? So each of those different 8 areas has a range of either 2 to 5 indicators for each one. So that when you're looking and scoring yourselves, you're giving yourself either a 0, a 1, a 2, or a 3 for each of those areas. And then what happens in terms of assigning school district grade, each school gets a grade, the district grade then is calculated by averaging the total of all your schools. So the ones that I wanted to point out the most is number 2, which is meet, and 3, which is exceeds. So happy to report that all of our schools are either meeting or exceeding the requirements. I'm like, good. I'm like, oops, technical difficulty. Okay. So this is a summary score. So this is a snapshot of all the schools. If we just take one and carry it across, you'll see the different elements that I explained. Element 1 through 8. The total score column is over here, and then each of the schools. So when we look at that and we look at the total score, it's a possible 78 points. All of our schools are within that 73 to 76 range. And then we look at different areas and places when we're kind of going through the data in terms of, what's the difference between a meet and an exceeds? Because again, we are meeting in every single area, and in most areas we're exceeding. So we come up with recommendations each year. Oh, and I think it actually skipped one. In terms of, we review at the district level and kind of analyze the data. We talk to anti-bullying specialists, principals. Then we develop and share recommendations. And I just did that with our school counselors. We had a meeting on Monday. It was our first anti-bullying specialist and coordinator meeting. Then we talk to principals, and then you will then turnkey them, or they will turnkey them at the school level to their school safety teams. So really some of the focus areas that we talked with, and remembering that last year was a pandemic, right? And everything that we were doing, and that this year is still a pandemic. And so that idea of ways to incorporate and make sure that we're doing everything that we can, again, to promote kindness. We have a kindness theme this year, but we talked about, annual recommendations by the team so that they can look at, like I said, we go beyond just classroom climate and school climate. We look at wellness and sustainability initiatives as well, and then actually annually assessing those. So those are two areas where we probably had the most variables in terms of score differences that the safety teams will look at. And then we have talked about doing a spring survey in the past, but again, last year with the pandemic, we decided not to do that. So we will wait and see what continues to happen this school year, and then that might be something we do this spring instead. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. McGulick on her presentation? Mr. Lanzalotta?
Just a quick question, Ms. McGulick. Do you know how our school district fares against or compared to other surrounding school districts as far as total scores go, and also HIBs or HIBs reported, within the district? Is there any record of that?
Exact numbers in terms of, and again, last year with the pandemic, but once they're actually released. So with this, we'll be the first ones actually submitting, so I don't have any data in terms of this year. When we look at previous year data, certainly that's something that there was a decrease overall, because if you remember starting March, that's when kids were remote.
Absolutely.
And then even last year,
Thank you very much, Ms. McGulick.
Ms. McGulick, can I follow up on that question? You said, based upon the pandemic last year, because we were in those cohorts, we saw a dip, right, in HIB reporting. But I don't know if I heard the rest of that correctly. Are we seeing, because everyone's coming back in together, are we seeing like a flush of it suddenly happening again, or is this pretty much dialed down? Yeah. Now, on the flip side of that, in terms of coming back this year, one of the barometers or the assessments was wellness, and are we seeing a trend of more students who are in need of like in terms of wellness, and I don't want to say dependability, but are feeling more overwhelmed than we would have seen previously, or something along those lines? Are we seeing more influx of that this year?
so I would say yes, not in the district, I would say yes across the country. We're seeing an increase in terms of general mental health. Staff is exhausted, and all the different things that they're doing with their mental health and making sure that they're being taken care of. And we try to aim our professional development before the school year started, have a wellness component to it. And certainly kids, absolutely, some of the things that they've seen in the past year and a half of this pandemic. So that's why we bolstered up and have more mental health supports in our schools than we had previously to help them.
Yeah, because I think obviously HIB is always extraordinarily important, but I think that mental health and that emotional health, coming back, school sometimes is an effect on stamina. You build a particular stamina throughout a year of your stamina hits an expectation level. And it's almost like working out at the gym. If you do the same weights all the time, you get used to it. When you push yourself harder, your muscles get pushed harder. I think education pushes you mentally and emotionally sometimes, and there's a stamina level that I think that the students might have got accustomed to. And I'm just throwing this out there. I'm sort of kind of asking that. Is there a stamina level I guess they'd gotten accustomed to, and it's thrown them off the edge a little bit in terms of their emotional wellness. Like, this has been a lot more for them than because of last year's shortness or how it was designed. I mean, are we seeing that? That's what I'm asking.
So I would say generally speaking, yes, we're seeing that it's taking, like where something might have taken, like an interactive remodel, you might have shown some different routines that might have taken a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to develop. They take longer because again, you're getting kids who in some instances haven't been in a school building in a year and a half.
Yeah.
That are back. In some instances that have been in school full time, so it's no different for them. And some who have been in partial time have been remote sometimes, so you have so many different variables. It absolutely has impacted. So again, we really tried to talk to staff about the importance of it's okay to go slow in terms of developing those routines and structures, because that's really where you're going to be able to get them the biggest bang for your buck in terms of by having that trust, that emotional well-being, that social emotional piece. The academics are going to come with that and be integrated in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, because how can you learn if you don't establish the trust?
Correct.
100%. Thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. McGulick. Any other questions? All right, let's move on. Thank you again. All right, at this point in time, we're going to open to public comment for agenda items only. If this meeting will now be open to the public, referencing agenda items only. However, if your questions or comments pertain to litigation, student or personnel items or negotiations, we'd ask that you see the superintendent after the meeting, since we do not discuss these matters in public. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person. Again, this is just for agenda items. If anything is non-agenda item-like, we have another section later. Hi, name and address, please. Is the mic on?
Hi, good evening. I'm Tracy Brown. I teach at Marlton Middle School, and I am the second VP for the Evesham Township Education Association. As you see on the agenda, it's the adjusted bus driver salary guide. We were glad to work with the district administration to help with the bus driver shortage. The sidebar agreement will hopefully help to recruit new drivers and retain existing drivers. And just wanted to acknowledge that in front of the Board of Ed, the open lines of communication this year has really allowed us to work together and problem solve and work through some situations together. So that's a positive thing I thought you should hear.
That's a wonderful thing to hear. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Appreciate that. Anybody else? All right, we'll close that portion of the meeting. All right, we're going to move into item
Hey,
number
Joe,
six.
one quick, Ms.
Oh.
Brown, thank you for saying that. It was nice to hear the positiveness. We don't hear enough of that, so thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to come up and say that.
Thank you, Mr. Meagan. At this point, we'll move to item 6, approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve items 6.1 through 6.3. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Ryan. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Fleming. Any questions or comments pertaining to approval of the minutes? All right, seeing none, let's go to a roll call, please.
Mrs. Capello,
Abstain.
Mrs. Everhart,
Abstain.
Mr. Fisicaro,
Yes.
Ms. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Canton,
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll,
Yes.
Mr. Lanzalata,
Yes.
Mr. Meagan,
Yes,
Mrs. Ryan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move to item 7, superintendent's report and administrative items. I need a motion to approve items 7.1 through 7.8. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Capello. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Lanzalata. Before we go into questions or comments, I will give the floor to the superintendent's report and Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Fisicaro. Before I start my comments, I just want to say thank you to Ms. McGulick for the great presentation she gave, and also to Ms. Brown for her comments, and Mr. Meagan for recognizing that, because it feels positivity's a positive thing, and that's a tautology, but I just said it. Today and tomorrow, and in fact this whole week, is a great illustration of this year so far. It is school, comma, with masks. School with Halloween parades today and tomorrow. Back with gusto after a one-year hiatus. School with visits all month from our Evesham Fire Department, which has done educational programs for every grade, every school this month. And I want to say thank you to our Evesham Fire Department and Fire Inspector Doug Borgstrom for that awesome support and coordination. It is school with Red Ribbon Week activities all this week that promote a drug-free and healthy lifestyle and why it's important to stand together against drugs. And these are events that have happened every school year. Might have been virtual last year, but are back now the way that they've been in the past. Including common elements for Red Ribbon Week, like special theme days where kids get to wear colors to school. Different kinds of fun activities. Red for the color of Red Ribbon Week, or wearing the same color by grade to emphasize teamwork against drugs. Food drives, poster contests, ribbon decorating, and inviting families to partner with us and discuss that message of being drug-free at home and with friends and extended family. A special shout out to the Evesham Alliance for their help and support of our district for Red Ribbon Week, and to the curriculum department for their work in coordinating those activities district-wide. There are two sidebars on the agenda tonight. I'd like to thank both ETEA and ETAA for their support and collaboration with these sidebars. From ETEA this evening, we have Vice President Tracy Brown, and from ETAA, I see Vice President Gary Hoffman here, as well as, I put my glasses on, Ms. Romanelli, and in the back, Mr. Mongan, our Jagged principal, who I think his first official board meeting. It's great to have you, Mr. Mongan. First, the bus driver sidebar. So, this is to increase the hourly wages of our drivers. Multifold purpose. We appreciate our drivers greatly. They are essential staff in helping school be possible, getting students to and from safely. And this is being done to stay competitive in an increasingly competitive market, both on the level of recruitment and retention of drivers. And for anyone listening, please help us spread the word. We need and welcome all drivers and all people interested in becoming bus drivers to join our transportation team. It will not cost you a penny to join us as a driver. We'll provide the training, cover the cost of the license and the fingerprinting. You can email me directly. We greatly appreciate anyone's interest in becoming a bus driver. It's a great way to serve. The other sidebar is on the Director of Special Services position. And this sidebar is to make that position be non-represented, like our other two director positions, Director of Curriculum and Director of Personnel. Currently, that Director of Special Services position is in ETAA. So this change would enable that director to join the other directors as part of Superintendent's Cabinet, and among other benefits, will help in that way Cabinet better reflect our district as a whole. Also, district planning, decision-making, budgeting, and more will improve through contributions from that role of the director, from that voice and perspective on the cabinet. And then lastly, I have gotten a few emails from parents on the topic of vaccinations for ages 5 to 11. So I would like to say I'm excited that we are in communication with our state health department about, as we try to host vaccination clinics in each of our elementary schools at the earliest possible opportunity. And that would be for families with kids aged ages 5 and up, which is really exciting. And as soon as I have more info, I'll be sharing that out, but we are definitely looking into that at the earliest chance that we get at all of our schools to make it as comfortable as possible an experience for our kids and our families. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Pizzagaro.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Any questions or comments to item 7? Ms. Ryan?
I just wanted to say how great it is that we're getting volunteering back in with our children. And so kudos to Ms. Schuler for organizing two fantastic fundraisers coming up one for Operation Yellow Ribbon and the other for Wiley Food Pantry. So those are going to be going on, and I think it's great to see the kids getting back into the idea of volunteering.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I have a question, real quick. When we do these vaccination sites, are they going to be designed just for 5 to 11, or will this also be for older students and possibly their parents?
Great question. So it'll be for anyone ages 5 and up. So it could be our middle schoolers, it could be high schoolers, family members, anybody
Awesome.
basically. We hosted one at Mustang Town, MMS, this summer, and went very well. And that whole experience just showed the value of being able to, not just from a standpoint of proximity, having the vaccination clinic be close, but just, it's in that trusted environment of a school building and kind of reduces people's anxiety. So
I agree with that. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. With that being said, let's go to a roll call, please.
Mrs. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Everhart, Mr. Fizzicaro.
Yes.
Ms. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Cathan. Yes. Mrs. Knoll,
Yes.
Mr. Lanzalata,
Yes.
Mr. Meegan.
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Let's move to item 8, curriculum and instruction. I need a motion to approve items 8.1 through 8.10. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Cantham, seconded by Ms. Knoll. Any questions or comments pertaining to curriculum and instruction? Seeing none, let's go to a roll call, please.
Mrs. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Everhart, Mr. Fizzicaro.
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Cantham. Yes. Mrs. Knoll,
Yes.
Mr. Lanzalata,
Yes.
Mr. Meegan.
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to item number 9, finance and operations. I need a motion to approve 9.1 through 9.19. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Capello. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Lanzalata. Any questions or comments pertaining to finance and operations? Seeing none, let's go to a roll call, please.
Mrs. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Everhart.
Yes.
Mr. Fizzicaro,
Yes.
Ms. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Cathan. Yes. Mrs. Knoll,
Yes.
Mr. Lanzalata,
Yes.
Mr. Meegan.
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Now moving to item 10, personnel. I need a motion to approve items 10.1 through 10.10. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Ryan. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Fleming. Any questions or comments pertaining to personnel? Okay, so go for a roll call, please.
Mrs. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Everhart, Mr. Fizzicaro,
Yes.
Ms. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Cathan. Yes. Mrs. Knoll,
Yes.
Mr. Lanzalata,
Yes.
Mr. Meegan,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to item number 11, this is policy. I need a motion to approve items 11.1 through 11.3. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Ryan, seconded by Ms. Capello. Any questions or comments pertaining to policy?
I just had one.
Yes, Ms. Ryan.
I just wanted to let everyone know that most of these policies are mandated, and the one that isn't, if you notice, is the education of the homeless children. It's just revised and something was added. So, but it was highly recommended that we adopt that. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. I appreciate that. Any questions or comments to policy? All right, let's go to a roll call, please.
Mrs. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Everhart.
Yes.
Fizzicaro.
Yes.
Ms. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Cathan. Yes. Mrs. Knoll,
Yes.
Mr. Lanzalata,
Yes.
Mr. Meegan,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. All right, at this point, we're moving to committee reports. Are there any committee chairs who wish to report? All right, Mr. Lanzalata.
From the MRC, first, I'd like to congratulate the newly elected president of the MRC, Scott Tarzi, who took over for Walt Miller. We want to thank Walt Miller for his time, and we look forward to working with Scott and the rest of the newly elected and re-elected MRC board members. Also for MRC, the Marlton U10 girls travel team girls soccer team is putting together a blessing bags for the homeless. The last collection dates are this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 2 at Memorial Soccer Fields, and to please donate all toiletries like, toiletries and chopsticks, and toothpastes and all that kind of good stuff. So thank you very much.
Any other reports? Chopstick. Oh,
Chapstick. Chapsticks, I apologize.
Did I say chopsticks? Did I say chopsticks?
You said chopsticks. I
meant
had asked John. I didn't understand.
Toiletries, chapstick.
I mean, it is a highly efficient way to eat. I will give it that. It does take dexterity.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And, oh, I'm sorry, I was about to, Ryan, go ahead.
I actually have 2 things to say. I just wanted to say to the PTO presidents, keep up the great work. I heard all of the Halloween parades were fabulous this year and this week. So kudos to everyone for trying to get some normalcy back for our students. I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else appreciates it. I know it's not easy. And then I just wanted to ask Dr. Smith if you could just give us a little update on how the dinner went from Evesham Education Foundation.
I'd love to. That's a
Okay,
great
good.
question. Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Yes, the fall dinner for our Evesham Education Foundation recently took place at Indian Springs Country Club. It was a great event, great turnout, and it's just, you know what, it actually brought back memories to me of the golf classic in June, also run by the Evesham Ed Foundation, because I had that same sense of just like gratitude and a little bit like a mixture of awe and appreciation for the fact that so many people from our town are willing to do so much for people they have never met, but know are out there needing that help, you know? And so to see, like, you see basically like this cross section of so many different walks of life from our town. There were business people, just parents, grandparents, clergy, educators, all coming from different places, but with one common goal, which is helping the kids of our town. And so, you know, that there was a fundraiser both through the ticket sales, and there was also items auctioned off, and 100% of the proceeds come back to our district in the form of direct support for programs. So, you know, that's a huge motivator for people who want to donate to EEF, is that you know that the money is going directly to support specific programs. You can see it on their website. And so sometimes that feels really good to know exactly what's being helped. Yeah, so we really appreciate very, very much the work that they do. Thank you again for that question.
And one more thing.
Go ahead, Ms. Ryan.
I also wanted to thank you for attending, but I also wanted to thank you for your donations back to the district. We approved it in item 9.5, but I didn't get a chance to say thank you. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. I'll just say on that note, just that's a very specific, like it's due to the very specific circumstances that I think pertain to very few superintendents. So I think of it just as something unique to my situation here, because I live in town, I've taught in town, and I've taught and worked with many of the families and current staff in our district. And as we go through this multi-year journey of essentially cutting millions of dollars from a budget that isn't just supporting kids in our district, but literally is like the fabric of our larger community, it feels, it just felt like the right thing to do. But I wouldn't in any way want to extend that beyond me to any other district or superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Ms. Ryan? Okay, I just want to double check. Anybody else? All right. Now we're going to move on to item 13, old business. I have nothing. Do you have anything? Great. We're going to move to item 14, new business. I have nothing. Do you have anything? Great. All right, we're going to go into open public comment, number 15. This meeting will now be open to the public referencing any items of interest. However, if your questions or comments pertain to litigation, student, or personnel items or negotiations, we'd ask that you see the superintendent after the meeting, since we do not discuss these matters in public. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person. Anybody wish to speak? Seeing none, I will close the floor. All right, at this point, we're at board member announcements. Any board members have any? Ms. Fleming?
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Fisicaro. I just wanted to make sure to remind everybody, it's early voting has already started. It will end this Sunday. Certainly, please go make sure you exercise your right to vote, as it is vital and crucial. And as Tuesday comes along, the polls will be open. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. Anybody else? Other announcements? Oh, Mr. Cantor, I'm sorry. Thank
No
you,
worries,
Mr.
man.
Fowler.
I just wanted to acknowledge a week and a half ago, we had the Evesham Township first Cultural Expo. It was a great event. I wanted to thank the council, Mayor Dion, all for helping set that up. We had a lot of performers there, and every performer, with the exception of 2, is either a current student or a former student of our district. And additionally, the stage was set up with a bunch of banners that our elementary schools created, so that was really cool. So.
Thank you, Mr. Camden. Any others? Okay. All right, we're going to close announcements out. We have no need to reconvene into executive session, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn. We have a motion? Motion by Ms. Everhart, seconded by Ms. Ryan. All in favor? Aye. Happy Halloween, everyone.